Did you know there's mountain biking right around the Babson campus? Well, going into freshman year, I didn't either. It took me like 2 or 3 years to figure out where the trails were around Babson. Once I did, I think my experience there got a little bit better. So yeah, that's what I want to share with you all today, how to go mountain biking right around Babson and do it without a car. To know a little bit about me, I'm a 2019 Babson grad, so I'm making this video 3 years after graduation. With that being said, if you have found any other hidden gem areas or just want to ask some questions, feel free to comment down below. This video is really meant to be a resource for Babson students to hopefully make their experience a little bit better. So yeah, let's dive right in. I'm going to be using a few tools in order to show you all these trails. First of all is Google Maps, and then mtbproject.com is really helpful, and All Trails, as well as the New England Mountain Bike Association.org website. So I found all these to be really helpful. It's funny, now that I'm like doing more research, now I'm actually finding trails that I think I missed when I was there. The three main ones though that I would go to were Needham Town Forest, which as you can see is a 15-minute bike ride from Babson, about 2.7 miles. And then I would go to Cutler Park, which is about 3 miles, 18-minute bike ride from Babson. And Centennial Park, which is like a 12-minute bike ride. So all of these are super close. You don't even need a car, and that was huge for me because I didn't have one at Babson. There were a few times where like my bike broke down and I had to call up my roommates and be like, hey, can you come pick me up? But luckily I had some good friends and they were willing to do that. So yeah, let's take a closer look into this. I'm gonna go to mtbproject.com. If you look, it looks kind of sparse around here as far as what's listed. So this is actually Noanet Woodlands. So Needham Town Forest doesn't even pop up right here for some reason. And this is Cutler Park, where I used to go a good amount. So that's why it's important to use these three different tools, is sometimes they're incomplete in information. Like I said, there's a lot more trails than just this. If you go to All Trails, which All Trails is more for like hiking and biking, but predominantly for hiking, it's going to show you like the plethora of trails around Babson. So I mean, it even includes like the walking paths around campus and stuff like that. Obviously that's not as relevant to us, but see this blue trail right here, like the Sudbury Path Trail, this will show you all the trails at Needham Town Forest, which is right there. This is Cutler Park. This is the Noanet Woodlands, which you also see right here. But really the main two I want to go over are Needham Town Forest and Cutler Park. So let's just look at a few photos from the Google listing there. It's really wooded at Needham Town Forest. They have this cool like trail art everywhere. A lot of the terrain there is extremely rocky, and there's some pretty sharp granite there that makes the ride pretty challenging. It's like a 15-minute bike ride to get there. I would usually ride for like 45 minutes and hit a lot of the trails and then ride back to campus. So it'd be kind of like an hour to an hour and a half adventure. So again, I don't think I stumbled upon this place on a bike ride somehow one day, and I'm glad I did. It's not really listed on MTB Project or on Google Maps. So I don't even know how I found it, but I'm glad I did. The other one that I think really is worth noting is Cutler Park. So let's go over here. So this has like a more established like loop. There's an 8.4 mile loop there. So when you go there, you're going to ride for, maybe an hour straight, depending on how much you kind of vary your ride across the trails. Let me go back to Google Maps. All right, Cutler Park. The Cutler Park has some really pretty areas by the river too. There's this boardwalk. The Charles River actually goes through there. And there's a bunch of parts to the trail that are a bit like wider, like as you see right here. There's also some more like windy single track, which I think you'll also love. But as far as difficulty level, Cutler Park is definitely an easier ride than Needham Town Forest. It's a lot smoother there and less rocky and rooty. So those are the two main ones I would go to. As far as the ones that I feel like I was missing out on, and maybe I just didn't experiment enough with, so here's Babson right here, but there's the Needham Conservation Land. right here, which this is Needham Town Forest right down here, but this is Needham Conservation Land. I never really hit these trails here, and it looks like they would be pretty rideable. I'm not sure if you do have to watch out. There's some areas that are going to say no biking allowed. I think it's very important to respect those areas. There are plenty of areas where you can go biking. So if that area is a trail that doesn't allow biking, definitely respect that. As far as like getting on the trail as quickly as possible. So I used to live in Coleman, and literally right behind I guess Van Winkle, there's a trail that goes behind the tennis courts. So it's like, yeah, so there's Van Winkle right here. And then there's this trail right here. It's right in front of the like hockey rink too. You can ride it either, well, if you ride it to the left this way, then you'll go by the skating rink and you can get onto the Sudbury Aqueduct path. And then from there, this kind of takes you closer to Needham Conservation Land. So if you like really want to get on the trails fast, that's the way to go. And then if I just wanted like a really quick, like 45-minute nature adventure, I would bike to, sorry, I'm doing a lot of clicking here, but there's kind of a lot to show. So if I wanted a quick adventure, I would bike to Centennial Park in Wellesley. And this takes you like by the golf course, Wellesley Country Club, and by this really pretty yellow house. And then you can see these dotted trails here. It's actually a really steep hill here that you're climbing up. And there's not that many trails. It's actually, this could be a good place to like bike to, park your bike, and then run around. I think if you talk to like anyone that's probably on the cross country team or runs a lot around Babson, I have a feeling they're going to have a good vibe of these trails as well. That's another great way to experience these trails. I didn't do a lot of running while I was at Babson. It was mostly biking. So that's where my experience lies. And so this was the mountain bike I used while I was at Babson. It was nothing too crazy fancy. I bought it actually in Florida, where I'm from, for like $250, but it's a hardtail mountain bike. It's got front suspension, nothing in the back, and like 2.25-inch tires. I'd say this bike did just fine there. So anything that's kind of similar to this would do pretty well. If you have like a full suspension mountain bike and maybe a little bit more of a budget, having a little bit of extra cushion definitely makes for a more comfortable ride. As far as what this meant for me is that like I would just pick and choose my trails a little bit more selectively with this mountain bike. So yeah, you don't need anything crazy. I mean, you're not going to be able to ride a road bike on the trails. You can probably ride like a gravel bike, which doesn't have suspension but does have thick tires on these trails. With that being said, like, I don't know, whatever you've got, just give it a shot. Make sure it's well tuned up and safe, and always wear a helmet. So obviously, like, you can try out all these spots around Babson, the ones that I recommended, but I definitely want to recommend that you try to kind of riff off that and try some things of your own. The coolest thing is that like it's possible, you know, if you're feeling like you're a little like cooped up, just like remember you've got a lot of resources in nature at your hands. Some other things that always amazed me around Babson was like the disc golf course that was at Olin. That was awesome. And then I was lucky enough to have some friends that were really into skiing, and we would drive up to like New Hampshire and Vermont sometimes. But yeah, there's a disc golf course on the Olin campus that is really fun to play. And me and my friends had so much fun doing that throughout Babson. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful. I want to encourage everyone that has some expertise here just to comment down below what they've found. I'll probably make some more videos about my experience at Babson. But in the meantime, please feel free to reach out and have a good one.